Creative Life Survival Guide, where I share survival tips on creativity, productivity, and balancing a creative life. I'm your host, Laura. Hello, creatives, and welcome back. Today, I want to talk to you about a topic that I think we all struggle with on a daily basis, which is balancing a creative life with our normal life. Many of us don't really get to pursue our creative endeavors full time. I am one of you. We have jobs, families, social schedules, and more that just get in the way of our creative time. So instead, we fit hobbies, part-time projects, and side hustles into smaller and smaller chunks of time during our day. And it feels like we can never really satisfy our creative itch. But because we've chosen to adopt this creative life, it burns in our soul. We decided it's worth adding just one more thing to our plate. This creative life provides us with satisfaction, meaning, happiness, excitement, and just so much more. And creative projects are hard work. We take it seriously. We add pressure to ourselves. We try to deliver these creations to an audience if we're lucky enough to have one, or really just to ourselves because we love our work. And it means we have to tune out the distractions and things that pull us away from our creative projects. Now, finding balance is no easy task, but you don't have to give up your creative life just to find some stillness, just to find some order or structure to your day. So here are your survival tips for maintaining balance with a creative life. Now, first, you have to determine your priorities. You have to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. Are you trying to finish a book? Do you want to start a business? Are you trying to break out of the work routine and start your creative life full time? Once you figure out what you want to be doing, you also have to understand why you want to complete that project, why you want to do that thing. Do you want to finish your book for yourself, or do you want to publish it? Are you trying to start a business that adds value to other people? Are you feeling drained by your job or trying to take control of your schedule and you just want to start your creative life? When you understand why you're doing all of these things, you can better determine what your priorities are in life. It requires looking at your daily routine and figuring out which activities detract from your creative goal. So you have to be able to find these spots in your schedule where you aren't using your time wisely or necessarily to pursue your creative endeavor. You have to be able to fit these things in. So maybe you have a lunch hour where you can eat your lunch in the office, eat your lunch at your desk, and use the remaining hour that you aren't eating to maybe edit your work. You can look at how much time you spend on your phone when you're scrolling social media and instead use that time to maybe plan your next project. They, aren't necessarily large chunks of time, but you can still take advantage of these little tasks that help add up into a bigger goal and help you finish your creative project. Second, you have to learn to say no. So whenever you say yes to something, be that a social night, watching a movie or a TV show, taking on a different project, you're saying no to your creative project or something that could aid your creative project. I personally say no to a lot of social events that keep me up late and keep me out of the house and keep me from getting to bed on time, because I know that if I don't sleep well, I'm not going to have energy in the morning to focus on my writing. Now, I'm not saying you should say no to everything, but I'm saying you should be a little bit more intentional about what you say yes to. So learn what works for you or find ways to tie habits together to save time. So I use my drive to work because I do have a full-time job. I use that time to listen to podcasts, listen to music, audiobooks, and then I also use that time to talk on the phone with my friends and family and stay in contact with them. Because then I know when I get home, instead of having some of those distractions or getting pulled into a new conversation or things like that, I can get straight to work on my writing. Third, you should learn to practice patience. Now, I am the most impatient person you will ever meet. And it's frustrating because I want to be able to work on my writing full time. I'm constantly itching to get back to my keyboard. And due to circumstances, I still have to pay the bills and I still have to, go into work and do all these things. So I have to learn patience and I have to accept that I only have small pockets of time to work on my project. So it's important to understand that you aren't going to be able to complete it all in one sitting. You're not going to write the entire book in a single hour when you can actually work on your project. Patience will pay off, and it's hard at the beginning when you're trying to learn this and kind of come to terms with patience, but it will pay off because your final project is going to be polished and presentable rather than rushed and sloppy. Fourth, you should create a structure. So, like I said in the first episode, it's important to show up to your work and show up consistently. So, set times where you can work on your creative project without distractions. So, you can put it in your calendar and use it as an appointment with yourself that you cannot cancel. It helps you set boundaries for expectations, and you can also use that to let others know, hey, I'm working during these hours. I'm not going to be available, and this is why. This is the goal that I'm trying to accomplish. Building that sort of action plan as well. So, if you don't have a plan going into your creative time, you're going to waste a lot of it trying to figure out what to do. So when you show up to your work, you create this structure, you're going to have a plan of attack and you can always adjust. So things will change. You might sit down and have just recently come up with this really good idea, but you're supposed to be working on a different idea. Well, things can change. You can always adjust, but have an idea before you sit down what you're going to be working on so you don't waste time, sitting or researching or, doing all of these things that aren't what your creative project really is. And finally, understand that this is your creative life. It means that you have control over it. And I know we all want to put our creativity first. We all want that to be the forefront of our mind. We want that to kind of flourish, but we also have to understand that this isn't the end all be all. Your personal well-being should always be at the forefront of your priorities. It'll help prevent burnout, it'll keep you healthy, and you'll be able to maintain relationships with others. Now, remember, this is about balance. It's not about overloading your schedule to the point of exhaustion. Sometimes you have to take a step back. Sometimes you have to reassess your schedule and learn how to practice patience or reflect on it and take a new approach. You have to be able to be flexible and realistic about the time it's going to take to complete your project, because otherwise you are going to face a lot of frustration, and this is supposed to be enjoyable. You're supposed to love sitting down with your work. And when you are realistic about your goals, you can't expect to complete a full project in a short amount of time when you're only working on it part-time. You can't compare yourself to others, who are able to churn out books or paintings or start a business out of nothing in what seems like just a matter of minutes or hours or days or months, whatever it is. If you're only working on things part-time, it's okay to sit back and set a different goal and say, I may not finish this in a month or 2 months or whatever it is, but I will finish this. I am making progress. Focus on those little bits of time where you do get to make progress and further your goals and your creative project. Now, if you believe that balance is an illusion, which many people do, there is no work-life balance or creative life balance, whatever it is, if you don't necessarily believe that balance is achievable, you can at least accept that some of these steps will help minimize the crazy in your life and just give you a little bit more structure. So hopefully you can use these tips to help with balancing your creative life, or at least manage your schedule a little bit better and find those little pockets of time to actually work on your creative project. Now, don't forget, if you have a question about creativity, productivity, balancing your creative life, whatever it is, head to laura-winter.com/podcast, and I might answer your question in a future episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Creative Life Survival Guide. Be sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen. To find more information or survival tips for your creative life, head to laura-winter.com.